All right. Give me a few minutes here to get set up. This is going to be about a 1 hour video. For those of you that don't know me, I own Section 8 Consulting, and this is a new office area I'm going to be working in. It's rather large, and I'll try to focus on the camera tonight. So just bear with me a minute while I get the lighting set up, and still working on everything. So tonight we're going to be doing some HUD news, and look, I'm not a broadcaster. Like I said, I own Section8Consulting.com, and I keep track of things like anybody else does in the news, and we just cover some important topics and what's going to happen at the end of this month, which is going to be important for a lot of you guys. I'm also going to allow you an opportunity to ask questions. A lot of you have a lot of different questions. In fact, I get about one email every minute, 24 hours a day. So it's about 2,400. So it's a lot to keep up with. So before we get started, I'm going to cover some changes for the consulting services that I do for a lot of you on YouTube and also professionally on my actual website. That way, we're kind of clear about what's going to be happening. So as many of you know, and hopefully y'all can hear me okay. I should have done the sound check already, but as you know, the eviction memorandum ends at the end of the month, and so I'm seeing a tidal wave of people that are going to my website as well as my YouTube channel. In fact, so many people have attempted to go to my website that you've actually crashed it 3 times. I had to talk with the network operator about that because they were concerned that I was being, hacked or DDoSed or whatever you call that. And I said, no, that's just people that are concerned about the end of the month. So, guys, please take it easy on the website. Otherwise, you're going to knock it offline. That doesn't do anybody any good. Number two, about these money orders. Now, in the past, in the old days, when I did this consulting work, I took a variety of payments, including Cash App and all that stuff. We've evolved the software because it's more efficient for me and for everybody else. You can schedule, you can reschedule whenever you want without interaction with me. I just do not have the ability to play secretary and also kind of do this job. So we're no longer going to be accepting money orders and checks and things of that nature, mainly because a lot of people will mail a money order or a postal money or whatever it may be, and they feel entitled to have their appointment the next day, when in fact we have 10 and 12-day waits. So I'm not suggesting anybody that has sent me a money order or whatever it may be in the past couple of days or last week has done that. I'm just suggesting that it creates confusion about skipping an entire 40 or 50 people. So I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. And besides that, a lot of banks do question money orders and things like that, and some of them will not even cash them. That's crazy, but it's true. With that being said, let's talk about the end of the month. I think that's the most pressing issue. Most of you have sat through the pandemic now since early 2020, and a lot of you couldn't afford to pay rent. We all went through hard times. Hell, I went through hard times. Couldn't pay bills and other things, and here I am, and I'm the consultant. I'm an authority on Section 8, and there was a point where I was concerned that I may myself be participating in the program if anything got worse. A lot of us just saw, income evaporate, and a lot of us have seen different things play out since 2020. In addition to being able to not work and not pay rent, we have a housing crisis going on where we have people getting greedy, and also because the president's giving away 25,000, so it's heated up the housing market. Landlords are trying to recover monies that they haven't been able to get for a year, so they're raising the rent at exponential rates, over 20% in most cities, and that's pricing most people that's a voucher holder out of the market. Their share of the rent would not be sufficient. They would not have a sufficient amount of money to cover it. And so I'm having a lot of people come to me, look, when I re-signed the lease, I have no idea how I'm going to pay this rent. And that includes people that are on Section 8, which is your Housing Choice Voucher through your housing authority. So you're paying 30% of your income, but at some point the rent becomes so high that 30% evaporates whatever you have, and so it creates a dynamic that's pretty serious. In addition to that, out of 100 million renters around the country right now, what we do face is roughly 40% or 40 million people are up for eviction. In one of my prior videos, we discussed the concept that a sampling of 17 cities produced 50,000 evictions coming due in about 20 days. Landlords are very serious at this point. They don't want to be homeless either. They don't want to lose their buildings. And so we're watching the greatest migration and eviction in U.S. history since it's probably this country's ever began. And look, I'm not trying to create sensationalism. It is simply what it is. Anybody who has their eyes open can see clearly what's fixing to happen. In addition to that, so we have the rent spiking, and then if we don't get another moratorium to protect people, then there could be issues there. The rental assistance program that rolled out, which is better known as ERAP, which is emergency rental assistance. I helped people since about January with that, the best that I could. Around 9,400 people. Now I didn't get to help them all. I only got to help about 1%. That's a lot of people. A lot of that was very convoluted. They didn't market it right. They made the links to find the funding itself convoluted. The city of New York, it became so political that to this day, people are just now receiving back rents when most of the nation's already paid out every penny. And other cities like the city of Houston, ERAP funding evaporated in 60 minutes of it being opened. Okay. So whoever had the fastest internet connection, which would have highly been unlikely that most low income people would have had a T1 connection, would have lost out simply because they could not afford better internet connection. This is part of the convolution we talk about, is how it just exasperates the furthering of people that are low income and on vouchers, and then we increase rent and other things. Now, I want to tell you something interesting. I was reading about a story talking about a gentleman that owns a subsidized property. A lot of you are under the belief that when somebody purchases a property, so you're a landlord and you purchase a property, it's got 100 units, and you decide you want rich tax credits. In other words, the government will give you tax credits each year against your property, kind of like a rebate, if you allocate a certain number of units to low income individuals. And so, what we have with that is we had a gentleman that owned the building, and he decided to falsify paperwork for his father in law. And so he got caught doing that, and now owes $90,000 because of it. And how that played out is simply because we've talked expressly and extensively about housing authorities. We talked about employees that work there, about the attitudes, about the unethical behavior, about hundreds, close to hundreds of housing authorities being sued for different reasons. Now, I want you to bear in mind, they're not being sued by people. They're being housing, just so we're clear, a housing authority is not HUD. A housing authority is something that's local in your city, in your county, and is owned by the city, possibly the county or the state. So HUD and Marcia Fudge, it's in the overall of HUD in DC. She is the one on the rampage suing these housing authorities that are operated by county, state, and state officials. Well, we say they're officials, but they're ordinary people working at the housing authority. At the very least, they're barely county employees. And so, I see a lot of cases where people are calling me about unethical behavior. We've had a lot of discussion about that. There are states and counties that operate flawlessly, and I give credit in I tip my hat to that situation. However, in many, many states and many, many counties, you have a lot of unethical things going on. As an example, I spoke with a client just about a week ago, and the person that is the director of the entirety of that housing authority decided to take out a voucher in her own name and then lease that apartment out to somebody else. That is the very definition of wire fraud. That is the very definition of committing a federal offense. It's a violation at the greatest extent doing something like that. Not only does it do that, but it betrays public trust. When you come out there, you take a public position and then you're just corrupt like a police officer. Again, I'm not suggesting that police officers are corrupt. There are cases of that too. So, we talk about many examples. What's interesting is it's not a one off. It's I have hundreds and thousands of people over the years that have explained plenty. I have housing authority employees, actual employees that work at the housing authorities I've mentioned in many videos that hate their job, that have contacted me, shown me their credentials, given me a tremendous amount of information about their housing authority, and then just basically laid out what was going on. And what I'm finding is, if any of you don't know this, a lot of housing authorities have received federal funding from HUD and DC. They keep an allocation about 14, 15% of that funding hidden. It's in their drawer, in their bank account, and that's reserved for special situations or special use vouchers. So even if your city, your housing authority in your city has been closed for a decade, they still have funding every year they've received that they tuck away and they keep for this special purposes. The problem is the abuse, the lack of record keeping, and oversight. Often these housing authorities operate almost as if they're an independent country. Okay. They talk to people in such a way that, you know what, I would say that you'd had a better relationship or discussion with somebody in the county jail, a jailer, than you would with some of these housing authority employees. They've shown actual disgust in the way that they've treated people to the point that it's just completely unethical. However, I do see the housing authority, some employees' side of the point because I do consulting with people and I deal with people that have severe mental illness. And I too have been harassed. So I understand how things do de evolve. So you have low paid employees at a housing authority that are harassed by people threatening many things. Look, I've told y'all exclusively on many of my videos. It sounds like we've got a cat scratching here. Come on, girl. So if y'all didn't know that, I have 21 cats, and looks like we have a visitor. It's Blue Eyes, and I'd love to show you if she comes close enough. Hey, girlie. So here's my girl. She's got crystal blue eyes. She's a rescue, and y'all know I love cats as much as I love people. But you can't keep her too long, or she'll shred me up real good. Now she loves to be petted, but she's not going to be babied. So with that being said, let's get back to the video. I know there's a lot of pet lovers here, and I hope to be able to relate to you if you own dogs and cats. You know. So going back to that housing authority, there's a lot of different things that go on, and there are a lot of federal remedies under Title 24, federal regulation, and other things. The thing is, you need to be apprised of your rights and your rules. For those of you that are trying to deal with the housing authority directly, if you don't understand the rules you're playing by, you don't have the full playbook. It's hard. You're calling daily and you're asking the same people that can't stand you to please tell you how to get them fired. You see how that doesn't make any sense? So in that case, you have a couple of options really. If you know somebody that works at a different housing authority, you can consult with them, or you have somebody like me, you can consult with me, or you can call HUD itself. That can be a mixed bag depending on the type of employee you get there. But I have a lot of faith in HUD in DC. The people there are federal employees, and they do take great pride in their job. So, and, you know, the thing is, I don't take any prejudice against HUD itself in DC. It's the housing authorities that are run by crazy people, in my opinion. And again, I just want to say that's never not every housing authority. So we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about some home ownership and budgeting stuff that's going to be rolling out this year. And what we've got is for FY 2022, HUD budget includes 100 million set aside for, and this is going to be Miss Fudge. She's pushing for this, so 100 million for first home buyer assistance initiative. And this is going to be the new program rolling out. We'll have it as long as I suppose that Mr. Biden is in office, and then Miss Fudge is in the HUD office. So that's for as long as it works. So $100 million. Let's give you an example of funding over the last 20 years for HUD and housing authorities. Most of you know it's around $54 million. It's divided out like a pie, very thinly sliced. It's been woefully underfunded for over 2 decades. You know, in 2000, we had a lot of housing out there available, and it has disintegrated, and we only have 3% of what we had 20 years ago. And so the funding has also been bled dry. So even so, by estimate of HUD's own numbers, if you had 1 million people apply, only 3% of people who deserve to get a voucher actually would. So even because you have a great case, doesn't mean they have the money in order to give it to you. That's how you end up with a situation like in Miami. And that goes, and I want to show you that goes towards the gravity of the situation. Looking at Miami and a housing authority, here's a city of 90 to 100,000 people. How do we ever end up with roughly 25% of the city applying for a Section 8 voucher? How the hell does that even ever happen? That's 1/4 of the population for a city. Well, a pandemic happens, obviously, other crises, desperation, and a lack of funding and other things. So we're no longer, and at 25%, do we cover the homeless, the broke, the people trying to use or abuse vouchers. We've now have expanded to a point now it's encompassing the middle class. So last year you were middle class. This year you are no class. You see my point? You have de-evolved into a situation with the very people that you might have despised over a year ago. So now I want to tell you, this is not unique for just Miami. We're seeing this play out in a lot of cities across America, and we're all watching the a bit of a collapse of the housing market in certain states. It's like California, New York, Florida is quote. Let me tell you something. Florida, what you see in California playing out right now, this is just my opinion. I do suspect that that may play out in the next 10 or 15 years in Florida. Heavy concentrations of people, especially in a state like Florida where you have that many retirees, can be a big problem. And so the problem is when a lot of these older people do pass away, you don't have the tax funding to fund that society that's out there. And that is generally what it is, unless it is spring break. And that's not enough cash to keep that state rolling. So I am concerned about Florida and other big states. And then, of course, I think that Houston and Dallas will fall like other dominoes, like California. That's been seen it in the Bay Area and other areas. So we want to talk again today also about black home ownership. If you are African American, if you're black or mixed with black, I'd also like to talk to you about those of you that are American Indian. And so you can be Mexican Indian, you can be from India Indian, you can be African American Indian, you can be Samoan, any version of Indian that was naturalized here in the U.S. They're adding those preferences back in not only for vouchers but for home ownership. And so right now they're going to be moving a new program out, and it's only in 6 months. Okay, 2022 is not that far away. A lot of you guys have been hammering me hard about the housing part of this for mortgages and how do I use my voucher for it. The thing about it is, HUD requires you to be not only a real estate agent and a broker, but you must also additionally be certified. So I cannot give advice in this area. I can only tell you verbatim what I read because I'm not going to break the law. Okay. And I know some of you have been trying to push through consults for this. Look, it would be strictly an opinion. I cannot sit there and give you a systematic way to deal with it. But let's talk about what it is, what you're going to do. So, how many of you know what FHA is? Okay, that is the federal housing. Here I am asking y'all, telling y'all that, and I've already forgotten myself. Um, Federal housing. Well, I should have messed that one up. So it's been a long day. Anyways, FHA programs are intended to lower the barriers for home ownership for potential first time buyers. These FHA loans may be paired with assistance from First Home. So when you go and Google tonight, type in First Home Initiative to increase the initial equity for first time buyers. Even if you were married to your husband or partner and you left them and your partner was the one that purchased the home, you could still get involved in this. If it's been over 3 or 4 years and you purchased a house 20 years ago, as long as it hasn't been the last couple of years, I don't know the specific number of years, but I think if you're over 3 or 4, then you may re-enter for the first home initiative. And so, anyways, moving on from first time home buyers and further to aim for substantial home ownership. This is targeting those again in our sub communities. And I'm going to be honest, the Hispanic and Black populations for the United States are ever increasing, and because of that, I do not see African Americans and Hispanic people being a minority race by any means. They're not on reservations. These they represent equally in this country around 15 to 30% of our population. So I think that we should probably increase the equalness for the loans and mortgaging because there's a lot of bias with that. I think actually there's no doubt about that with lending and all that because now we've evolved into algorithms that determine whether or not a person's too old or too young or whether they're risk because they're a certain color or stuff like that, which I think is absolutely despicable. But that is the reality now. You're now being judged by algorithms, but the problem with algorithms are they're supposed to be neutral. Instead, if the algorithm is trained by a racist, then that's exactly what the algorithm is going to be. So let's not kid ourselves about that. So you never know who's behind the algorithm. And so I see a lot of problems and an opportunity with that. So with Ms. Fudge at the helm of HUD, I do believe the first home initiatives are going to be a good thing. I don't know a lot about it. There are lots of YouTube channel creators that speak extensively on this and have a license to do that. So I would definitely look up their channels. So the rate of black home ownership was about 44.1% in the fourth quarter of 2020. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty close to half, but I think that could be a lot better. I think it could be more like 70%, you know? Now, there was actually an improvement from the third quarter of 2019, which was a rate of 40.6. So these numbers have changed since the 60s when it was like 20%. It's still not good enough, in my opinion, because thinking about it is everybody needs to have an opportunity to buy a home. Why? I don't understand how in history we ever got this so fucking wrong, you know? All humans deserve the ability to purchase cars and homes without these situations. Okay, so I don't want to get deeply into racism and bigotry and other issues in this video. I'm just saying that I think that we're seeing some progress, but it's not near as quick as I'd like to see it to be. So, with that being said, HUD plans outlines a path towards eliminating the persistent barriers of home ownership for Black households. The groups propose home ownership counseling, and limitations on counseling is required with any loan these days with houses, unless you have killer credit and you're not required to do it. As far as I know, if you're going to buy a home, you're going to have to get counseling. It's also going to be targeted for down payment assistance programs. In other words, these first time buyer programs, 0 down, 0 interest for a number of years, and they can increase that even more for those of you that may not be making them the biggest amount of money. Now, a lot of these like USDA loans and other loans that are out there, they're designed for people with 530 credit score. In other words, you're damn near almost not paid many bills lately. So it's pretty bad credit. Unless you have an extraordinary bad, 530 is pretty low. So I think even with a low credit and even working in an ordinary job, say you're working Uber or you're working Taco Bell, something like that, it's certainly functional if you're able to just save a little bit each time. For those of you on Social Security disability, I think if you have enough payments and you're willing to suffer a little bit, there is an opportunity to do it. However, some of these loans do require you to be gainfully employed and won't work with Social Security and other things. So that's the thing. I don't want y'all to consult with me about that. You really should do your homework and get with a licensed real estate broker or agent and see. They're not going to charge you for that. They only get cash when you get cash. So, in most cases. So, now moving on from that, I'm going to take a look and see some of these comments, and I probably should have been watching. We've had a few trolls hit the channel. You know, everybody that's low income is trash and deserves to die, kind of thing. I get those occasionally, and I find them amusing because I blocked every known word that's conceivable. The fact that you could even comment on one of my videos and get through is a miracle. I've probably blocked around 3,000 words, and so what that does, it shuts down, trolls coming in the channel and just talking pure shit. So let's take a look and see what we've got. Oh, so that looks like the chat window is pretty hot. Let me take a look and see what you guys are talking about. So we got Betty Gardner. Can you please address the rule for overnight visitors? Okay, Betty. Now, under most circumstances, and we must keep in mind that cities can make their own ordinances. Over most circumstances, in most leases, in most states, you're allowed to have somebody, but if you have to first give the landlord notification if they're going to be more than one night. However, most leases, professional leasing does provide that a person may be in your home for up to 2 weeks. All right. And then after that, they must leave. And I believe there must be a continuous space of 1 to maybe 3 days. Again, you should consult with city ordinance for that because every city does it differently. But for the most part, it's 2 weeks. So double check yourself before you go out, jump out and do that. Jasmine Victoria, hey girl. So that's she's a longtime person of our channel. I call her Jazzy, and she says she's ready to get in the housing. I don't blame you, Jazzy. It's one of the most glorious days we can all have as a human is to participate in the housing market normally. Nobody wants to be a renter forever, I don't think. I think most of us would like it. I think the big objection I see with people in home ownership is nobody wants to mow the lawn. Nobody wants to have an acre and have to get on a bush hog and deal with all the bullshit. And if you're older, you probably want a really small yard, something very easy, no flower, maybe hanging flowers, but nothing to maintain. So I do get that. You got to spend your money smartly. Sonia. Now, Sonia's another longtime member of my channel, and she says, just joined 3:28 California time. Okay, so by the way, guys, I started the video early because I don't want to starve to death tonight. I did not account for my ability to talk forever, just lips burning along for an hour and a half. So we're not going to go that long. So I started early because of that, because I carry on for a long time. Hannah. So Hannah's a more recent member. She's been around for a minute. HUD doesn't answer the phone. I think that what you mean to say, Hannah, is the housing authority doesn't answer the phone. HUD and DC always answers their phone during normal business hours because they're federal employees. However, the housing authority, we've discussed that extensively. A lot of them, housing authorities are closed, so the doors are locked. The phones have been, they've taken the scissors, snipped the cord, and they're working from home. If the housing authority does not have the funding or they're not required by law to give out vouchers at that time, then they can simply just shut off all contact to society. And that's what a lot of them have done. Others, housing authorities have used it as an excuse that people have COVID and that their life is a mortal risk, as if they were any different than the other human. And for thus that reason, you're only given an email that goes to nowhere. I do get that. When you reach situations with housing authorities, not HUD, are closed and they're not given a response, then it's time to send out a certified letter. And in that letter, you should include part of federal regulation that will compel them, or either them or their in-house counsel, to respond. If they're not going to respond in 5 business days, then you need to take the case over to HUD, Washington, D.C., file a formal complaint. I believe it's the 4388 form. And again, I'm not quite sure on the form number again, so I'm just kind of spewing that out a little bit. Let me check real quick and see which form that'll be for you guys. Just hang tight for me, and I'll tell you which form you're going to need. Always going to be prepared when you're in the video. So, complaints, HUD. Where's it at? It's going to be 958. I believe that's correct. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, Complaint Register, OMB Approval NO number 2529-0043. And the last revision was in 2018. Looks good. It's a PDF. It's about 9 pages long. You'd fill it all out. You want to send that certified. And so you first need to compel the housing authority. If they don't want to cooperate from that point, then you have to take your case directed to HUD, which is Department of Housing and Urban Development. Okay. Again, guys, I'm not an attorney. I consult with attorneys that don't want to spend time knowing what I know, and I'm certainly not going to spend my time learning how to do what lawyers do, which is interpret the law. I just try to interpret what HUD, things that are related to HUD. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to go back to the comments, and we're going to start completing some of the rest. All right, so we take a look here. We've got Jessica Hammond. What if my children are black? Well, congratulations if your children are black. Congratulations if you have children at all. A lot of people can't have them. So, if your children are black, so I know what you meant. So I was just trying to be funny. So in that case, if your children are mixed or if they're completely African American, as it may be, then it's perfectly applicable. If any part of the house is mixed with any race outside of white or Caucasian, then there's an opportunity not only to score, well, I won't say score, to be able to get preferential vouchers. Well, not preferential vouchers. You would get a minor amount of boost possibly on your receiving a voucher for the housing end of that. So I believe that's what you're trying to get me to address. I think that would be sufficient if the family composition is made up of other adults or children that are other races, as long as it's provable. Okay. So you can't be, white as a donut and then expect anything out of that. Okay. But I think under normal circumstances that it's applicable. Let's see. Amelia, there are laws in place against vaccines and drugs given to children without proper clinical trials off label. I appreciate you sharing that. However, that has nothing to do with anything that we're doing in this channel, in Section 8, housing, any of it. However, I'm happy that you're wanting to communicate that information. We have to be careful when we talk about vaccinations. The United States government takes that very seriously, whether you make a claim for it or against it. because it's become so politicalized. Okay, I'm not going to make my channel about whether you get vaccinated or not, so we'll just keep going on that. If you want to know more, then I would suggest contacting possibly the United States government that resides over the part that does medical. Mile High salute. So I'm going to presume Mile High salute that you have a military background. If you do and you're a veteran, then thank you for your service. Thank you for your service for anybody that's in this channel that served this great nation and kept us free. We certainly have enough countries out there that would like to see us disappear. So you can always honor a person that has attempted to serve this country or has served or has been damaged from his service to this country. I deal with a lot of vets. People. That's another issue. One day I should address in these videos is the care, the treat, and ethical treatment of our veterans. It's great to be like a banny rooster out there and celebrations and all that with our veterans, but when you see a veteran in the ditch and under the bridge, the presumption they're just a homeless trash. I don't think that a veteran should have to make an announcement that he's a veteran. He served our country, and when you serve, it means you're there serving with the understanding that you could lose your job, not your job, but your life in many cases. So I think that should be unquestioned as a nation. If you're not going to serve, then don't serve. So, anyways, I don't want to get too deeply into that. Camellia Rivers, FHA, Federal Housing Authority. Thank you. So most of you, I got tongue tied on the FHA, and I perfectly know what that is. If I don't know what that is after 20 years, then it's time to unplug the camera and throw it in the commode, and then take the microphone and just ricochet it, make it spark off the concrete because I'm a worthless bastard if I can't figure out what FHA is. And I surely did that tonight. We all do that. We draw a blank. October Dawn. There's 34 currently watching. Let's help Jay by hitting the like button. So I wanted to tell you guys, I appreciate that October Dawn. We've had such a great opportunity with this channel to talk to people, to reach out to everybody, the homeless, the sick, the mentally ill, mothers and children in homeless shelters, seniors rotting away in homeless shelters as well, people that are an inch from taking their life because they realize that they may be losing their home and their property. So, as I've always told you guys in these videos, I take that responsibility quite seriously. I wish that I was able to help everybody, especially right now. We're going through a tremendous spike against my YouTube channel as well as the consulting website. There is just simply more people than I could possibly. If I worked all day long, every minute, never ate, never slept again, that still would not be sufficient to help everybody, and it's disheartening. I do try to pick and choose cases based on my experience, not on what I think, not on what I believe, not what I morally think. I try to base it on who I believe would be at greatest risk of losing their life. I know some people have emailed me and said, "Hey, you know what? Uh, Here's my situation," and they frame it up almost like manipulation that I should imply guilt against myself if I don't call it. Look, I make my decision based factually. If I know that a person is going to be a serious risk, and I mean already in it, then those are the people that I'll pick up the phone and call out of concern, and I've certainly done so. However, I think a lot of you don't realize that at 2,400 emails in a day, it's simply not possible. And some of you guys will send 40, 50 emails. Now, in principle, you should know that is extremely bad behavior. That should have been relegated to one or two, and then allow me an opportunity. After all, in 6 years, I've answered 99.9% of all comments and damn near all emails. So to be badgered in that manner just seems, in principle, that you may be either one, suffering from mental illness, or two, you simply believe that you are the center of the world, and that's going to be hard to work with you when your mind's framed up that way. So I'm not trying to bitch. I'm just saying, take it easy on me, okay, guys? I don't get a lot of sleep. So, anyways, um, Monty, Monty, I'm glad to have you in the channel. And for any of you that have joined me or even left, for those of you that popped in and popped out, I always enjoy the new people here. I'm a little bit different than a lot of YouTube creators. One, I get personal with you guys. Two, I use profanity, but I'm starting to reduce that to a minor amount, okay? Because I realize that it's not so much people don't like it. YouTube algorithm doesn't like it, and the less farther my videos reach, the less people to get help. So that's why I'm cleaning up my act a little bit. So it's an opportunity to get me to get to know me and to understand the things that I've been trying to communicate for years. Only lately have the YouTube gods decide to move my videos up and to give me a fair shake, and that's given me an opportunity at the best possible time, and that's with all the evictions and the pandemic, and an opportunity to help you guys in any way that I can. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on to the comment. Kimberly, how do I apply for this type of assistance? I am in California. So you probably left that comment a few minutes ago or even earlier. That's hard to answer, being that I wasn't watching your comment when you gave that. Oh, it looks like we've got another cat. Come on, Pops. Come on. My cats are very needy. And apparently, I've trained a bunch of cats to make me work. When you think that you're running your cats, when you're training your cats, they're actually just training you. So they have me on a good schedule. I'm surprised they haven't put a leash on me and tried to walk me, because that's really how my cats handle me badly. They try their best, and I've got one that likes to pee on everything. In my office at home, on the computer monitor. So I tell you what, I'm going to keep Clorox in business because of that. They piss on everything. You walk by, you get pissed on. So I'm trying to work on that, getting the cats under control. So beyond that, let's see. Oh, hello, I'm new here. So okay, we talked to Miss Bonnie, and I was letting y'all know, if you're new here, welcome to the party. So I see somebody's laughing, and then I live in California. I want to move to another state. Can I apply for this in another state? Well, here's a few things you can and cannot do. One, if you're in one state, you must apply just strictly in that state. If you start applying over state lines, then you're in possible violation of federal law, unless you're actually going to um, port to another state. In other words, you're going to relinquish your voucher in one state, and then you're going to have the other housing authority bill or receive that voucher in another state. So, look, that's an old hustle, okay? Especially in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Come on, kitty, please stop. Come on now, let's be reasonable. You're not going in that. I'm sorry. I knew this was going to be interesting with all these cats. So, Papa, please stop. Please stop. Come on now. So, okay, I'm about to lose it. He's not going to stop crying. Come on. Come on. So, anyways, let's check our time and see where we are with things. I'm sure you all think I'm crazy with a crying cat. Come on, Papa. He's not going in that room. So, beyond that, let's talk about what's going to happen in the month, and then how we should try to address this for all of you. So, we're people are at different phases right now where they may be. Some of you are on the way out. Some of you already know that you're evicted, and others know that you have landlords acting against you quickly. So, let me give you some advance warnings. I've dealt with properties that have hundreds of units. Here he comes. He's under the table. As soon as he gets close enough, I'm going to show you the howler. Hey, Papas, you coming? Come in. You can see me. He's being cautious because he knows I'm going to pick him up. So, with that being said, back to what I was saying. When landlords tend to do evictions, there are a few things you want to look out for when it comes to evictions. One, they'll go down to the county office, they'll file for an eviction, but they won't actually file it, pay any money. They'll just get a copy of it, fill it out, tape it to your door. It's a clever game to get you to move out. Look, guys, you're still under a moratorium, okay, to keep you there. And make no mistake, the courts are not just simply going to have a flowing system right now. So before you go and pack your stuff and put yourself on the sidewalk in the middle of the pandemic and a housing crisis, it may actually take around 6 months for them to be able to actually get you out the house legally. You must first be served officially, and that must be filed with the court. They must pay a couple of $100 for that to happen, which usually they don't. So them just simply using an ink pen on the form, taping it to your door, don't fall for that. Okay, it's a tactic that some of my landlords use, and it works. Number two, they use forms called 3-day notice to vacate. Look, that piece of paper is the same thing that you have on a roll in your bathroom. It's called toilet paper. Any moron can print it out. It has no legal standing. It does not. That piece of paper does not compel you to move out. Any landlord, any leasing agent can print it out, sign it up, and put all kinds of crazy shit on it. It is simply a piece of toilet paper that's worthless. That will not move you out until you get a sheriff's notice on your door, okay, to appear in court. If it doesn't say to appear in court, then everything else taped to your door is bullshit. So, bureaucracy and red tape will be the very reason why you'll spend another 6 months in an apartment you've already been evicted on, and that will be in lieu of and despite of an already a year that you may or may not have paid rent. So, I'm not suggesting anybody do anything unethical, but if you're going to walk out on the first day after July simply because somebody taped some toilet paper to your door, I would not do that. That is more time. So you do get an eviction. What's going to be worse for you? Will it be having an eviction on your record or spending the next 2 years bouncing around from homeless shelters that don't even have room to take you? So for those of you that are very close to destitute, use that as an opportunity. Number two, be clever. I had a young lady contact me. She was a young college student. Hey Jay, I'm getting evicted anyways. I said, have you been evicted? No. And then I asked her, I said, has it been filed? No. I said, well, then this is what you do. You go sign the longest lease you can find and do it now. Move your stuff right now before they can file it, get into the new complex. And guess what? They're not going to see that eviction. And this makes sure you stay there the rest of your natural life and hope they don't ever check again. Number two, evictions often do not run across county lines. And if you leave a state, then it may not even be picked up in the next state. Be frank with you, I've dealt with big landlords that have software, and it often just does county-wide. So the thing about evictions are that's just what it is. If you can think of it, ever greater time to understand why an eviction might have happened, it would definitely have been during a pandemic. Now, prior to actually having a pandemic and you had an eviction, it only spoke to you just not paying rent. But a lot of people might come to an understanding that you got evicted for a real reason, like most people. So you have to consider your safety and health before you consider whether or not an eviction is going to put you on the sidewalk. So it's your choice morally and whatever you want to do. I'm just suggesting that we should look at all available options. And if that is a time period, even though you're staying there, which you believe to be illegally, it's still a time in which you could still find a way to find another place to live before it becomes too late. So don't just rush and pack all your stuff, okay? Think about this stuff if you can. So I'm going to take a look at a few more questions here. Gabe, I have a duplex. I want to rent to Section 8 client. Is there an issue if the client is my sister? It is not going to be an issue if you apprise the housing authority of your intention and if your sister is actually fully qualified to be a recipient. Is when you do things behind their backs and shady that you get yourself in trouble, okay? So if you're willing to do this in a legal, perfectly legal manner and apprise the housing authority of specifically what you're doing, it will not be a problem unless the city and that housing authority have specific rules against it. Some do, some don't. So just handle that situation honestly. Cameron Silver, what's going to happen when all these folks are evicted and later down the line they go to try to move into another apartment? Well, what's going to happen. It's the same thing that's going to happen if they don't. Here's the deal. Ask yourself this: eviction or not, is the situation going to be any different? So you lose your income, you lose everything you own, and you're worried about eviction. Look, whatever's going to happen is that shit has already rolled down the hill. At this point, I'm looking at how long we can keep a person housed, legally or illegally, until a solution can be arrived at. People get evictions. It's not the end of the world. You didn't acquire a felony. A lot of these evictions don't only last on the record for 6-7 years and they're gone. You guys are going through extraordinary rates to not be evicted when in fact half the fucking country's being evicted. So let's just be real. If that's what it requires at this point to hang on, to have a roof over your head a little longer, then maybe it's worth taking the hit for it. But I don't want to advise anybody to go and take an eviction over housing. That is not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying that you have got to do what you've got to do. What happens when you've got elderly, you've got children on breathing machines and other things at home? Are you going to be more worried about your damn eviction, or are you going to be worried about whether or not you can keep a roof over your head? That's the thing you got to worry about, okay? Worrying about credit history and all that, that's all shot to shit for everybody, okay? So you just got to do what you have to do. That's going to work out for you. So let's move on. So I just some of you guys are so busy trying to keep your credit scores clean and all. Like, hey, I get that, but if it's going to cause your children and the old to suffer through it, then no. Crystal Annie. So Crystal, I'm always clear about everybody that joins. It's a member. I don't do fake views and fake comments and all that. So I'm gonna let y'all know that Crystal Addy is a longtime member, and I appreciate her being here. If you're a senior citizen, what will most likely happen when you go in front of a judge? And so, what you'd want to do before you go in front of a judge, it's always in the interest of in-house counsel or whoever's representing the other party that you reach a negotiation at that point. That's what a lot of guys realize. You think that the whole conversation in a lot of these meetings is just simply an eviction process. You can still walk over to the other desk and talk with their counsel and say, look, why don't we just do a settlement and then just avoid the issue? I give you your money back for wasting your time bringing you in this court. We avoid the eviction, and my shit will be out of here in 12 hours. Try to work it out. Number two, you want to type in Google. Let's see. It's late, so I'm going to draw a few blanks, guys. I apologize again. Housing advocate. Okay, well, they're not the most useless people, but you'd want one to represent you minimally. It means that it's likely somebody on the way to getting their law degree, and they can be of assistance in some ways. In other words, they work these type of cases every day, and they generally don't charge you anything for it, and so they can represent you and kind of negotiate. Think about it. It's kind of like going to jail for a felony, and you're kind of negotiating not to go to jail. So your housing advocate is going to try to hopefully assist you with just trying to negotiate. Okay, I've dragged that a long time. I apologize. I know you had to pay for the eviction paperwork. How about I give you the $300 back, and then today I'll be out at noon, and then we just make a deal. So what you did is you bought yourself a lot of time, and then the landlord gets his money back. Look, guys, if you haven't heard of ERAP, EREAP, type it into your Google, and then add your city name. So ERAP Chicago, ERAP Houston, or wherever you live. That's federal funds that help you pay back rent and forward rent if the landlord is willing to work with you. All right. They can pay, I think, 12 months of going backwards and up to 18 months going forward for some cities. If you live in a small town with a very low population, then maybe the county has to play. In other words, there's an opportunity to reconcile if you have a reasonable landlord. If you have an unreasonable landlord, then oh well. So there's a lot of things. Again, I don't want to constitute this as legal advice for you, but standing in the court, you do have an opportunity to beg for them to not evict at that point, and then just make the personal guarantee that on walkout that's going to be the illegal agreement or settlement. So don't think you can renege, because once you do a settlement with the other side in that courtroom, it's binding. In other words, you're not going to go walk back in there and go hide in your house. You're going to have to get your shit out. But at least you can avoid the eviction at the last minute if they're willing to do so. And you're giving fair compensation for wasting their time going up there. So let's take a look at some comments here again, because I know they're building up. All right. What did I do with it? I'm having a rough night. Let's see here. Lady TH, and again, she is Lady TH has been around a minute on her channel. I appreciate you having you here. She says thanks. Cameron Silver, great advice on the eviction. Absolutely. I think there's lots of clever ways you could handle this, whether you're a Christian or you're the most immoral person possible. But the main thing is you want to consider all options reasonably. A lot of times you can find your way out at the very last minute by compensating the landlord so they calm down a little bit. Okay. That's how you avoid evictions sometimes, even on eviction hour. Until the judge hits the gavel, then it's not a done deal. Even when the judge hits the gavel and all your shit is in the front lawn, it's not done. It still takes time to process that. So technically, over the next week, you could still go apply for another apartment, and it's not even going to be on your record yet. It takes time to file all this. It's not that fast. So my advice is you better gas the wagon up. Make sure you go lease another apartment within days of you being evicted, because it will show up eventually. As soon as they have time to file it, do their paperwork at the courthouse. All right. If you live in a big city, that could be months before they actually file the whole thing and get it done. Moving on to another question. Cheryl Williams in Kansas. Have a friend. He and his girlfriend are homeless. She is pregnant. How fast could they get Section 8? Well, Kansas, on a scale of 1 to 100, I would rank around 30%. In other words, it's not a terribly complicated place to get housing. However, housing choice vouchers and housing authorities are not fast anywhere. I would imagine a waiting list in that area, since I don't know the city, I would probably put an estimation somewhere between 8 months and 3 years, and that's fast. If you were in places like Orange County, Los Angeles, New York, Bronx, Queens, Long Island, certain parts of Florida, you got waiting lists that go on 1 decade, decade and a half, 20 years, and in some rare instances, they may never reopen in another 80 years. Um, when you deal with mid cities like that, then those lists are short. Now, that 8 months to 3 years is if you probably gave every worst answer you could. I've worked with a lot of clients to make sure they're giving the best possible answers on there, and that can definitely shave your time in half. If not, look, I had one lady, we did a recertification for her. She gave better answers. Life changed. She had more preferences. We changed everything up a little bit, and she had a voucher in 6 days. Look, that's a mythical unicorn. I'm not suggesting anybody making change is going to get one 6 day. I'm just saying, as a prime example, that was one case. It was an extraordinary win for me. Moving on, Kimberly Gauze, how do you apply for Section 8 HUD housing in California? Are there more than one in each state? Okay, so that's a whole video on how to apply for Section 8, so I'm not going to do that. How do you apply? Well, in the same way you'd apply for a job. You show up, you fill out an application. If you want to work at McDonald's, you show up, you ask for an application, you fill it out. The thing about it is, you want to know the secrets to it, all that stuff. And I'm happy to share that. I've shared 200 videos worth of secrets, manuals, and federal law. Look, when it comes to complex issues like that, the best thing you can do is book a consult with me or find somebody else that does what I do. As far as I know, there are really no other Section 8 consultants in America. There are HUD consultants, there are 2 or 3 consultants if you're going to build a building, but I'm pretty much standalone in what I do, except for a few talking heads on CNN and stuff like that. But those are analysts, they're not consultants. Um, Moving on from that, and so you were talking about applying in California. Well, it's like, I put it to you this way: if you gas your car up and you drive it off a cliff and you find yourself in hell, that's pretty much the housing market in California. It's red hot. It's expensive. It's next to impossible. The Los Angeles and Orange County areas right now have a waiting list that exceed. I think they have a homeless population plus the list around 200,000. So it's just next to impossible. It would be easier to migrate yourself to a different state or city or another farther away city than to deal with those areas. But I don't know what part of California you're in, and I don't want to discourage anybody from applying for housing in California. It does still happen. I'm just saying that it has the greatest crisis out there. Michael Mike, glad to see you again, my friend. I sent you an email. I need to talk to you. Mike, I just want to let you know, man, we're on a 10-day wait. And at present, I have 10,600 emails. I know you're in the stack, so it will likely be sometime, I don't know, next couple of months before I can read them all. I know I apologize. I'm not intentionally trying to not answer people's emails. I just have to prioritize children that are going to die in the next couple of days, and elderly people that are going to lose their life because they're under a bridge and they're burning up. So simple emails just do not take priority with me. I do try my best to take some from each day and some from the past, but unless you have critical issues, highly critical, that beat the rest of everybody else, then I cannot spend my time sifting through 10,000 emails right now. So I hope y'all understand. I'm not trying to be rude to anybody. It's just a phenomenal number. I do not generate enough money in consulting fees to hire 10 people to read all that and respond to all that. So we're just waiting for this to cool off, and then I'll start getting back to some of you that are just needing simple questions answered. Okay. Moving on from there. Miss Blue Love, I am on dialysis and on disability. I am getting booted at the end of the month, and you will be homeless, obviously. I've been on the waiting list for over 6 months. I called such and such housing authority, and they said they could not help. Well, housing authorities are really not designed to be emergency housing. Well, I believe what you would be looking for, Blue Love, would be continuum of care or COC housing. That is when you become imminently homeless or you're actually homeless. So, continuum of care is not so widely known, not like what you all understand is through the housing authority. So, with COC, you can receive rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing. And I suggest you guys use your Google tonight to look them up, or you can find my videos about it. But so again, that's going to be permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing. And the programs I'm specifically speaking about is called Continuum of Care, also named, coordinated entry or housing first. So, loaded with those keywords, you should be able to look up a little bit. How long does it take to work? Well, after you do an assessment, they'll either confirm or deny almost instantly. But the part where you actually receive a voucher, you're probably the max limit early as a week, the latest around 35 days. However, if you live in places like the state of Florida, Los Angeles County, this could be pressed out 60, maybe even 90 days. Some of you are now going to have a choice. You're going to have to reside in a female shelter or a male shelter, or the better approach is if you're in a major metropolitan area, you need to get in your car and you need to go to a smaller county where the process will be simpler and faster. Carter Fox, with automatic qualifying medical and mental illness, how do you get the application to Harris County? So that's my city, Harris County. I technically live in Tomball, Texas, which is an outskirts of Harris County. So with that, make sure I'm clear. So first of all, just so you know, Harris County in Houston does not have an open waiting list, so that would be a fruitless effort. You would need to go after Continuum of Care, better known. You would need to go COC, and then you would need a 504 manual with its tests, and you would have to go to Compass. You would want to write in homeless into Google, homeless and Compass, and see if you can get a voucher, either RRH or PSH. My other advice is for you to change your driver's license. I know this is a bit clever, but change your driver's license. You know how that works out. Have them issue another one in 10 days and then go apply in Brazoria County where it's open. Look, guys, if it's not working in your county, just go over one, okay? Stop playing the game in the same city. Do what you have to do. Um, Carmen Silver, thank you, sir. And Miss Blue, sorry, can you repeat what it's called again? So, again, it's going to be continuum of care, coordinated entry, or housing first. Those are the terms you'd want to look up. The physical voucher or program would be rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. You can also use the acronyms for permanent supportive housing would be PSH, and for rapid rehousing would be RRH. And the best reach out or contact for that would be Compass. You would want to type in the word COMPASS, and then you would want to combine that with also the other word homeless, and you'll reach a Compass Center in Houston, Texas, or Harris County. All right, so one day at a time. My mother is 80 years old. She needs to live with my fiance. Uh, we can't continue to live in the house that we live in now because the neighborhood is way dangerous. Okay, so my presumption here is we have somebody that is extremely elderly. They're in a home. I don't see anything that indicates to me that you were have a voucher or anything like that. So, am I to presume by that question one day at a time that you're asking about a housing choice voucher for your 80-year-old mother, or will this be the whole family unit? You, the fiance, and all. So I need to get a better answer on that. Rena looks like Rhea. I'm in Milwaukee and I'm a single mom. Well, congratulations on having a child. And so, not congratulations on being single. Look, Ray, you have to frame that up in a question. I appreciate you announcing where you're from, but as that stands, it seems more of an announcement than a question. So, one day at a time. So, the three of us need help. Okay. So, in that case, the principal person that would want to apply is going to be the one with the most preferences. So, you would need to sit down with your grandmother or your mother, whoever's 80, and she would want to be the person, the number one person in control of the application, because she's going to have a better time, and then you guys could potentially become care aides for her if that's necessary. But anyway, that's nowhere here or there. And then I don't know where you specifically live, but you're going to need to get in touch with your local housing authority. Why don't I throw in a link for you guys real quick? This is a federal database, okay? It's issued by HUD or HUD.gov. And this will allow you to identify the housing authority you're looking for very quickly. And I'm going to copy and let me pull up the stream real quick. All right, here it comes. It's going to be a link. This is for Housing Authority all over in America. The reason I'm giving you a link to Department of Housing like that is because people in Russia and China make websites that look near the same thing, and they're there to defraud you of your personal information. Anytime you go on Google and a website says, "Would you like to apply for an apartment?" and requires you to give up Social Security driver's license, you've just helped somebody in Russia and China purchase a brand new car if you've got good credit. All right. Do not give out gift cards. Do not give out money orders, any of that. If they cannot prove to you that you walk in their office and you don't see a credit card reader, then fuck them. Don't pay them. Okay? There's a lot of scams going on because people are desperate, desperate times. And let me tell you something. If you're on a fixed income, the last thing you want to be doing is getting taken to the bank. Uh, Gail Resources. Now, Gail has been a longtime member of my channel, and I deeply respect the lady. She's good lady. So good to see you, Gail. Crystal Addy has also been a moderate member of my channel for quite a while. I appreciate you showing up in chat. One day at a time, Cleveland, Ohio. Well, the good news, one day at a time, Cleveland, Ohio does rank low in the list of difficulty. I would rank it around 20 to 30, and I don't think you'll have a great deal of problem. However, Cleveland is known for a high propensity of low income people there. So you may find there's a bit of a wait, but it's not going to be anything that's going to be mind bending, in my opinion. But before I start talking a bunch of craziness, I would definitely check your local housing authority per the link that I put in there and see what, if anything, can be done. If Cleveland does not have sufficient housing for you, then you'd want to consider surrounding counties. Kizzle Renee Davis. Looks like YouTube blocked your message if you were using any profanities or a link, or you talked. And now here's what's strange: chat will block words when you include human body parts. If you say things like head, ear, fingers, it's weird. It'll block it. It's not me. So you'll have to try again. Just misspell the word. One day at a time. Don't do the Gov help people on disability because you say my mom should do the application. I'm confused. Please give me. Okay, one day at a time. I can only do so much. We're trying to work on your case in the middle of a live video is not the way to do this. If you want to book a consult, at the very top of the chat window is my link. Well, there's links everywhere. So you have a this is a situation that needs to be addressed. Tips and tricks in a video is not going to help your 80-year-old grandmother and you or your family get housing. Anytime you hop into a video and somebody gives you a one-liner, that's not sufficient to get you a voucher. Okay, there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of preferences, and to be frank with you, if you were ever to invest even $10 of your money into anything, this would be the one thing you'd want to do it for. Okay, because it's going to mean a difference between you guys getting housing that could potentially change how much you're going to be spending for the near future or not. Going to tips and getting tips and tricks from me or other channels is not going to be sufficient. So I'm going to suggest that the issue is complex and that you book a consult, or you're welcome to get with any other person that does this that's qualified to do so. Moving on. Kizzle Renee. Disabled with COPD and restrictive lung disease. I have O2 every day. I have an 8-year-old. Congratulations. Children are a good thing to have. Need to get housing once I move to North Carolina. Can you help me? We can certainly try to work on your case. Now, just keep in mind, every state and city has a different set of policies, procedures, and rules. We don't know now if the housing authority is open, what your situation is. Do you have preferences? So that moves back over to the complex part. That's not. Yes, I can help you, but not in the comment section of the video. So, if you want to book a consult with me or any other qualified person, you're always free to do that. Look, guys, if y'all don't know where to book me, I'm going to put a link in. Again, I'm not here to sell anything. My reputation at this point, after as long as I've been doing it, I don't need to sell anything to anybody. I have plenty of people. I wouldn't have a 10, 12 day wait for consults if I didn't know what I was doing. All right, so I'm gonna put it in there, and you can book directly with that link. All right, that's if y'all want to do it. I'm not suggesting anybody spend their hard-earned money on me to do consulting. That is purely optional. Okay, just like when you purchase cable vision, TV, movies, beer, cigarettes, wine, all optional. Nobody's breaking your hand to do it. Moving on. Let's see. Renee, my son's been getting disability since birth. Renee, could you tell me how old your son is? By the way, I have a mental health problems, and I don't know where I can apply. Okay, so to apply, if you look back through the actual chat we've been doing, I listed a link to HUD.gov that gives you every known housing authority in America. You would want to explore that to see which counties would be the best options for y'all. Hannah says that HUD doesn't answer phones. I think I've already addressed that, Hannah. That is not HUD. You're talking about the housing authority. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to mute you because I cannot have you keep continuing to disrupt this video. So we're going to move on to Cameron. What's the minimum income to be a candidate for Section 8? Well, I think the minimum quality. So let's think about in principle what HUD does and how HUD looks at vouchers. They allocate 75% of all the vouchers for people that are extremely low income. Now, because we have such a big income gap around the country, I find that those income gaps can be from extremely next to no income to around 24,000. Now, that would not be applicable in places like New York, California, and all that, where incomes are extremely high if you're living in Nantucket. However, I find that a lot of cities and states, 24,000 per person would be considered pretty low income. The second qualifiers, some of the greater qualifiers, if you've served the United States military, you're a veteran. If you're 55 and older, if you're 62 and older, if you are a domestic violence survivor, um, if you are actually homeless right now or becoming homeless, if you receive Social Security disability, if you have a proven disability but do not have Social Security disability, another thing to keep in mind, guys, in order to use a preference for disability, you would want to, you don't have to receive a Social Security disability. You just have to give a form to your doctor that says you have a medical problem that will survive greater than 12 months, and then they might consider it as a disability. There are pre-qualifiers for some of you. For instance, you might be bipolar, and it might be written in your chart that you're bipolar. Well, but under all intended circumstances, the housing authority might consider that to be an automatic qualifier. Same thing for you guys, men and women that have degenerative disc disease. That is a proving disability. And in fact, the lady sued over that. She won. She had both bipolar and degenerative disc disease, and she won on both cases. And she actually sued HUD. She didn't sue the housing authority. She wasn't taking no shit. She was a former attorney. She lost damn near everything, and in her last dire cry for help, she took HUD itself to court. It was an unfortunate way to do it, but she knew that was the only way to make the change at the local housing authority was to go after HUD. Well, they complied, and I thank her for it because now those are now qualifiers, in my opinion. So, moving on. Substance abuse, been clean for 3 years. Now, with COC housing, for those of you that have just got out of federal prison, that have got a state prison, the county jail, and also substance abuse, and let's talk about alcoholism. If you have issues with alcoholism, drug use, or you're freshly out of prison and you're trying to change your life, there is housing for you. Okay, the only circumstance I can think for both people that are out of prison and jail and for drug abuse is when you have let's say on the jail side, if you're a registered sex offender, that can be an issue. Okay, and most certainly will be an issue. Now, on the other side, for the drug use, I believe that if you have been dispersing or dealing methamphetamine, if I'm correct still, that could be a disqualifier against you. I'm not saying it's automatic, but those are the two things I've identified that have been problems before. Almost virtually any other crime and any other addiction is usually not an issue. Okay. Now, just because you clear HUD with this or your housing authority does not mean the landlord's going to like you. So you'll need to have a rather compelling story to tell the landlord, look, I'm not going to be turning tricks. I'm not going to be out here doing gang activity. No, I'm not going to invite all my friends out here to harass people. You'd have to make a pretty damn good guarantee that you change yourself. Look, I just helped a guy out of federal prison in the case of bank robber. Look, if we can get him housing, then look, we're doing pretty good. So moving on. Um, Hamadiza. Now, I cannot say that name because I just simply don't know how to. So I'm just going to say hello and thank you for being a member of the channel. If y'all hear that crying, that's from one of my kitties. Let's have a looky look. There he is, the man of the hour. When it reaches close to 6, he lets me know that it's his time, and he doesn't like me to be busy. And so, guys, I'm going to be closing the video down soon because he will not stop. And I know that. He expects a certain time of day that you shut it down and that I have to go pet him. So let me address a few more things. So those of you that are members of the channel, if you don't know what that is, when you click on my photo, it brings you to my main YouTube channel. And inside that channel, you'll see a join button down there by the subscribe button. And then whenever you pay a few dollars towards being a member, it's a couple of dollars. Then I use those funds to rescue, help with these cats. Trust me, I've spent $1,500 in the last 12 months of cats. I told you he's not going to stop. So you'll hear him in the background, right? So, anyways, I use that funding for those cats. That's, you always use it where your heart's at. Let's see, Maria. I love this channel. Great work. Well, thank you, Maria. We're glad to have you here. Carlita Smith. I hope I said that right. Gales Resources is correct. I'm glad to see everybody's in agreement on things. Bellet Santi. I'm recently divorced and I'm in the process of moving or looking for a rental. How fast would I be able to get housing? Well, you left a lot out of that picture. I don't know what city you're in. I don't know what you're applying for. I don't know if you have a voucher or not. So there's a lot you left out of that. Let's just say that. Let's just give a crystal ball reading. How fast? Well, it depends how determined you are. It depends if there's any housing available. It also depends if this cat quits yelping, and he's not. So there's a lot of things that could be contingent on. So well, guys, my dinner's getting cold. The cats are starting to get upset that I'm not petting them, and it's nighttime, guys. So I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I've enjoyed talking with y'all. If you want to join me, I usually make a live video once every other day or during the weekends, and it can be it's usually between 5 and 7. Even though I'll schedule that video for 6:30. Expect the unexpected because I like to make videos when I'm in the mood to do it. Just like y'all, when you cook food and do activities, you do things when you want to do it. So I might schedule it, think, oh, okay, 7's great, but I may change my mind. So you should always expect between 5 and 7 p.m. is when it's going to happen, but it can be any time despite how I schedule it. So just expect the unexpected. So we'll be talking again in 1-2 days, and then we'll cover a little bit of everything again. I hope y'all enjoyed the news part of this. Like I said, it's a lot of rambling, but we try to address issues, real life issues, and see what we can do. So, with that being said, I've enjoyed having you all. If y'all have questions and all that, come and visit me another day, and y'all have a good night. Bye bye.